Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chicago Communicator News Media's presentation, which is Women to Women, with a little spice of man, who is me. Today, we're going to be talking about miseducation in school, miseducation in life, miseducation generally. It's so popular, so common now. You can't turn too far without seeing a miseducated or undereducated or diseducated person. At some point, you'd hear that there's disinformation and misinformation. Disinformation is when it's intentionally wrong. Misinformation is when it's just wrong.
I like that description.
we have misinformation, which is, again, misinformation when you tell somebody something wrong. And then misinformation when you close minds is when you tell somebody something wrong and then you tell them nothing else besides what you just told them. And in respect to that category is right.
All right. Yeah. Hey, Sandra.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us how you think today our children are being miseducated in the Chicago public school system. Are they still teaching them about Columbus discovered America? Are they still telling them that we were slaves? They don't tell them that we were kings and queens. They just tell them about our in servitude, that we've been slaves and so forth. They're not teaching them the truth. What say you about that?
Well, one of the big things I learned recently is that in the Chicago public school system, they do not have African-American history is not taught.
But
they teach it with respect to Black History Month.
But no, wait. That's no, because next year, actually, my junior year in high school, it's an elective. It's not something that they're mandatory to teach or learn, something that's mandatorily taught, but it's an elective, and that's what I'll be taking next year.
And again, that is something that's offered at your school, but it's probably not offered at every school. And one of the things, though, about Biden, and one of the things with the new movement that is going on, they will be teaching Black history. And it's kind of odd because I grew up long before there was a Black History Month. Black History Month didn't come until after I was out of school. I didn't get a chance to enjoy those luxuries.
Right.
But we were taught Black history. We were taught Black history as part of American history, which again is one of the things that I also understand that they don't really teach anymore. The history that is taught now, I guess, is dependent upon the school district or the taxpayers or whatever, because even when we were doing shows and we were talking before Alex Trebek died, he had talked about the fact that the college students at that time, this may be like 4 years ago, this is before he announced that he had cancer, he was concerned and said that he had noticed the shift in the knowledge of the individuals, the younger individuals versus those maybe 10 years ago, that the shift had been, the gap was wide. And they had did something that even kids didn't even know now about the 7 continents. They couldn't name them. And they didn't even know what he's, not only could they not name them, they didn't know once you told them what the name was.
Wow.
Jason.
Yeah.
So that is a kind of general miseducation, but the miseducation now has been for political reasons.
Yeah.
They needed to control. One thing that America and even globally people started to experience was global knowledge, world knowledge, and global wealth. I mean, they didn't expect, I remember when we first got the first billionaire, when Bill Gates became the billionaire. They were shocked then, and they made that comment at that time that he became a billionaire some 15 to 20 years before the economic analysts had anticipated there being a billionaire. And that was with the Silicon Valley and the advancement of technology. It had really made things just leap ahead. It was like that. They had a series out too, talking about quantum leap, how we had just went so far ahead of what they expected and what they predicted because of technology.
Okay.
And it had just opened up a whole new dichotomy to where there was this money now that no one had anticipated, because before oil was the leader.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Pork belly.
And then gold too, right?
Well, gold is still the leader. Gold is one of those currencies, I guess you would say. But no one had ever anticipated that technology would create not only millionaires,
Yes.
but billionaires.
Yeah.
Billionaires. And that they would cause the companies to earn not multi-millions or billions like they anticipated, but they became in the trillions.
Yeah.
And they had not anticipated that.
Yeah.
So with that, they realized, the greedy wealthy, that 1%, they make up 1% of the world, 10% of the US.
Yeah.
What they realized is that now they had competition. Because Bill Gates was not an aristocrat. Bill Gates was not old money.
No.
Right.
When they looked around, they saw a whole lot of rich people, but just a few old money. And old money had failed to invest in technology. So they were now losing out. They were falling behind.
Yeah.
They had the old multi-millions, but they were struggling to get to the billion. So, and the blue chips didn't mean nothing no more, because again, GE, now listen to this, GE, who once upon a time they were going to close up, GE Sylvania, when we were all kids, they were the tubes and the light people.
Yeah.
GE was on Comcast. GE sold Comcast at a loss, deliberately.
They sold Comcast, right?
They sold it. They didn't steal it. They bought it up. GE is making so much money out of technology that they can just throw money away. That's how big GE has got.
Well, I would venture to say the same kind of scenario has occurred with the travel industry, right, Deborah? I mean, hasn't technology enabled you all to do a vast amount of things over the internet versus what you used to be able to do? Today, travel is $1 billion business.
Absolutely. Travel industry, of course, it changes as with all other industries. It's a lot of challenges that we're going through, but look, we've got commercial travel into outer space now. They're not landing on the moon, but they're going into outer space.
Wow, yes.
It's not necessarily affordable for someone I may know, but eventually, especially for the youth who may be interested in something like that, give that to them. Invest in them to understand the aeronautics of outer space and travel. Get them in the travel industry. A lot of people thought, oh, the travel industry is not going to survive COVID. They thought it wouldn't survive 9/11. But we're coming back stronger than ever. And during COVID, there was a lot of electronic virtual travel that was being done. So, and education, travel.
That's a big thing now, right?
Is go hand in hand.
And can I ask?
In order for you to understand the world, you have to travel. Our folks, we stagnate our children because we don't want to take them in other countries. We don't want to take them out of school. Take them out of school. They have procedures now where you can get their homework, their schoolwork, and they can make that up, but you cannot take away or compensate for the education they get when they travel.
Yeah,
right.
And experience. I was sitting on the porch with one of my grandchildren, and we were talking about the moon. He's 5, and I was sharing with him how the moon is seemingly moving, and I had to explain to him, of course, it's not the moon that's moving, it's the earth that is moving. And just explain to them. We have to talk to them. We cannot work with children once they're adults. We have to start at home before they get to preschool.
You trying to
before
say
they
we
get,
can't work with children when they get to be adults because they supposed to be adults, right?
oh,
But I know a lot of adults that got that childlike mind. So
You know,
hey,
exactly. They never developed because they weren't given the tools. A lot of times you say, why is that person thinking like that or doing things like that? Because they were never given the tools to think better, to think for themselves. That's why we have so many followers
yes,
in this
yes,
world. And
yes.
it's just a challenge why we always want to put some blame somewhere else
instead of
instead
on
of looking
ourselves,
at
right?
us.
Yes,
And
yes.
I
We,
agree.
we have to pay attention to us. And yes, history, schools, the curriculum is not where it should be, but it does need to develop and build. But if they've got to go in, the educators, if they have to raise the children to be mannerable,
Yes, so they can learn, so they can teach them,
exactly. The
then it's gonna be a problem.
repetitiveness, yeah, the repetitiveness should not be there. Now, where did this come from where everyone was out of school in the summertime? That started when they had to be in the field
Ah,
yes, they should be in school all year
year
round.
around.
Yeah,
I agree.
yes, you
I
definitely should.
agree. What say you,
At
Miss
some
Yo?
level.
Should they be in school year round?
I said yes. I felt that mine should be in year round because I work. So he got a chance to go to Richmond Park. There was a camp. They come pick you up at 8 o'clock and had him back at home by 5. All year, a year round. Catholic, grammar didn't make any difference. He was somewhere.
Yes.
He got to a certain age. He says, well, what school am I going to? And we paid $300 for him to go to mental. He said, I learned more in that summer, what lab or what have you, than he did all year at Kenwood Academy. Well, all right. Year round. He got a trip to Germany for music. He wanted that scholarship because he made citywide, all the schools. He got back to Kenwood Academy and the math teacher, they were tutored, would not let him take the test so he could graduate with his class. My son said, that's all right. I learned more than all of them did. And went to Whitney Young and learned how to put the books together, binders. He took other things he wanted to know, printing, and came out. But he had been all over the world, and in Germany, he stayed with the man that owned IBM and stayed with his son. And he put him in a car and said, all right, go on and drive on that Autobahn 100 miles an hour. I said, did you do it? He said, yeah, but the car kind of shook after 110, so I slowed down. Okay. But he had more experience in his whole year. He took it with a grain of salt.
That's right.
Now, did he go to college?
Yes, actually, the Marine. I said, well, I didn't know about college and I didn't know if I was going to live to see him through. And so I took him to Quackenbuttano to the library and said, these are your choices for college. Read them and pick the one you want and we'll notify him. And he did. He picked the Marines. They came over to the school to recruit him. They said they needed musicians to play for the White House and all that gaboo. He got over there and he was just the last one to leave the berry because all of them, they just wanted drug-free kids. But musicians, they wasn't strong enough, and 2 committed suicide. Scared me to death. They were scared to come back because they told them, you come back here, I got you. They can't handle that. They stayed with their family and they never made it to barracks. And I said, oh, Brad, are you afraid? He said, no, Mom, I read the rules. So it makes a difference. Read the rules to play the game. So he was fine. They put him in charge of 44 men at 18 years old because he followed instructions and he knew how to talk. So yes, he went year round all his life. He doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
So and I want him to meet the TD.
TJ.
Oh, I talked about this young man today. We listened to my grandson. He's 30. They need to meet, so he'll know he's to come up.
Okay.
See, you all can get along, whatever that age level is, because you know the same. He speaks that way. He says, "There's nothing greater in my life than God."
All right.
He says, anything that I've
All
ever
right.
had, I know how I got it.
Amen.
That's right.
I know how I got it. He says, I haven't worried about a thing. I said, you don't worry is a sin. Be careful there.
That's right.
Whatever you want, you put it in the spirit out there in that karma and keep moving. And he said, can't nobody turn me around. He put a scripture on his, will you make this muscle here? He said, anyone that wants to talk to me, they can read the scripture.
On his biceps, yeah. All right.
Take a picture of that fella. He says, otherwise, I just don't have the time. I don't want to take it. And he's 30. Okay.
All right.
Biochemistry, music, he can teach all of it. And he's the one that said that the teaching, because he taught in mental health in Arkansas. And he said when they let those schools go, those students didn't have nowhere to go. So they out there wild. It scared him. But what can he do?
Nothing.
He's the one that said, I need him with DJ. He said the educational system, he's been out for a minute. He got scholarships.
We want to see.
What does it mean? He hasn't worked in any of them in 5 years.
But he can always be back. They can never, one thing about it, they can never take away what you know. And education doesn't change that swiftly. I mean, that's what we're talking about with those modules. Certain styles and modules, education enhances. It grows. It never declines. It never decreases.
Do you guys have some input in this?
One of the things that I was thinking as Joe was talking, it seems as though it was a certain way to allow the structure to be unstructured. And where I was with my children, and I know the question was all year round school, I believe in unschooling, because I believe that the chaos that our children and our communities are going through right now is because of the structure of schooling that we've come through. It has its benefits and it has its deficits. And I think that our children right now are sort of rebelling against that system, because that system has failed what they see their parents, their grandparents, their uncles, aunts. And so I think that that we're pivoting right now in education.
Yes.
And our youth are taking it upon themselves to discover their truths as it's being exposed. And so as the country is fighting in this dual kind of way, white people are fighting against their children being taught the realities of what their ancestors did to Black people.
Yes.
And they're fighting against it. They don't want them to know. But young whites, they are demanding the truth. And so as the truth is being revealed, the hatred is coming out because they don't want to be in this bad light in their children's eyes.
Yeah.
But the reality is that this is something that they did in history. And so I just believe that education is no longer as it has been in the past. And those that know how to pivot with the times, I think that will be your innovative young people that will seek various ways to get the truth, because so much of what they've been taught is a lie. And I just can't see them continuing to accept what they know are untruths. So we as adults and older people just need to know what these nuances are
Yes.
that our young people are learning, because a lot of it we don't know. And so I'm just willing to see where they're going. You know, a lot of them are dealing with STEM and things that we didn't have. So, and that's a lot of innovation. So I like the fact that they're doing some unstructured things that take them away from such a structured way of us being taught. And it is definitely a new wave right now, and is not the same, and I don't think it will ever be the same.
Yeah, and I think we have to in schooling we have school and then we have learning. You learn, of course,
Mm.
at school. You learn at home.
Mhm.
And the difference between the liking of or the agreeing with year-round schooling is that is school is it has a very negative connotation for a bunch of reasons. First of all, that is taking away hours of time that one could be doing something just a little bit more constructive.
Mm.
And that constructiveness can still be learning. You can still learn the same things throughout the day instead of putting an 8-hour time constraint on people who don't learn the same way.
Say
And the
that.
problem is that everyone has been taught, or every teacher is taught that every student is going to learn this way. And then you have now diverse learner teachers. So then they take those kids out of classrooms from interacting with other people who may not have the same struggles as them. And now they feel that they are a outlier from society.
Mm.
That then just destroys their morale. They feel less than normal. And now that's them now making an attempt to be normal, to
Mm.
be like others. So then they fall in line with everything that they see because it's trying to be like other people. But if you would teach throughout the day, you learn, you wake up, yes, you can wake up and learn and go to sleep learning. Instead of having an 8-hour time constraint to where you have to cram 7 classes of knowledge into your head and demonstrate that on a work that you have to turn in the next day for a grade to determine how far you go in life. Because you only had 8 hours the previous day to learn what you have to demonstrate on a paper that takes you 2 hours following that day.
That's thinking.
And school is just is and I don't have an issue with school. I love school. I love school for 2 reasons. First of all, I can learn things that I probably otherwise wouldn't learn because teachers, not only do they teach history, but they teach experience. Teachers go through things, and most of my teachers include their own experiences into what they teach. Then it's also the social aspect. For the last year, we didn't really have that social aspect of school because we were only interacting then with a computer with work. We didn't really, you can't really like have those sidebar conversations. Yeah, they had breakout rooms, but those breakout rooms only allow for you to talk to kids. And this is a new year. So of course there are going to be new students. New students don't really have that comfort with talking to people that they don't know on a computer. They don't have that normalcy of greeting someone in person and feeding off of the energy that's given in person. So it's a whole thing that yes, you need that social interaction of school, but you don't need that compacted structure. And then making it year round is like, and summer, yes, summer you need to learn because so many people, I've heard so many people say that they don't know what they learned in the previous year because they had a summer break. You need to learn, and summer does not need to be relaxation time because then come the next year, you need to learn what you learned last year to keep up with what you're going to learn this year.
Well, TJ, let me just jump in. Let me jump in and say 2 things. One, I want to hear what Babette has to say, if she has anything to say at all. Number 2 is that when you're talking about 2 things, you're talking about learning during the summer or not knowing, that's where it comes in with the parent. I think one of the other things is really missing in all of this is the parent to include that 8-hour structure. I think school and what like Babette was saying when they say that her daughter or her in her generation or my generation and my daughter, your mom, may think the system failed them. I think more so, well, Jill didn't say the system failed her, but I think the problem that was missing there is the parents' interaction was less. I was blessed. I was really, truly, 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 truly blessed as a child to have a father that really believed in education. Matter of fact, he made me sick because I had cousins that came to visit me that lived up here. My family was that kind of family, reach one, help one. So when my aunt needed help with her 10 kids, my mother decided she was going to take the two, one that was older than me and one that was young. Take the back, both of them were older. One that was 2 years older and one that was 1 year older than me. And she was going to bring them up here, keep them up here for a year, educate, feed them, dress them, do all this stuff, along with the help of my grandmother, my dad, and my grandfather. Well, in addition to me having to share my folks that I didn't have to share because my sister was 4 years younger than me, so she was still a little bitty going to the babysitter. I was in school. All of a sudden, here come these other two people that I got to share everything with, especially my mom, my grandmother, and I didn't like to share my grandmother with anybody, including my sister and my grandfather, or my father, that was his mama. So that was hard. But then my father being the person that he was, because they didn't know how to read as well, and they didn't know their timetables and other things. My cousin was they were fourth graders, third graders, and I was in second grade. Now, mind you, my birthday is October 7th. I was really in second grade. I was in second grade and turned 7 after I was in second grade because school started in September. I really should have been held back a year because at the time when I was a kid, if your birthday was in September the 1st, you were held back the next year. So, but not me. Some kind of way with my daddy and all this loud talking and whatever, they put me in class. That's right. I didn't turn 7 until October. They get here in September and they don't know their timetables. Guess who has to learn their timetables? I'm not doing no timetables in second grade, especially not in September, like TJ just said. They got to reintroduce everybody, everything they learned in first grade. I already knew all my first grade stuff because guess what? William Campbell was my father. So you didn't sit around during the summer and do nothing. You had paper, pencil. You went to the museum. He picked you up, took you on a field trip. He took you out to the store. He made you order off the menu. He took you shopping. He made you read the grocery list. He was just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Tell you to read how to cook rice. I'm only in second grade. I don't even know what rice is.
You eat rice.
Yeah,
24-hour education. That's what
that was my father. That's why I'm a little OCD, I guess. So when I get there, they get here. He says, and Denise, because my middle name is Denise. My name is Sandra Denise. Denise, you know your timetables? I'm turning around looking at him like he's crazy. I didn't finish my second grade work. I got stars on gold stars all on my paper. I'm done. He didn't check my homework. I'm finished. Do you know your timetables? No. Well, I want you to learn yours too. You got to know your 2s and your 4s by Friday. This is Monday. What is a 2 and a 4? I had to actually learn my timetable. And then he didn't just stop there. As they had to know their ones they didn't know. They had a problem after 5. They didn't know their 5s. After 5, they couldn't get it. They know 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, 9 times, 9, all that. So if I had to learn what they didn't learn as I went on. Once I did the 4s, then he made me do the 5s and the 6s. Yeah. Then the 7s and the 8s.
Well, that's just because you were smart. That's all. Just let everybody else.
He was crazy. And so therefore,
each one teach one.
I had to know that and do my homework. I still had to do second grade work. Now, initially, when my dad did all that stuff, I would hate to see my dad come over. My mom and my father separated shortly thereafter. But my dad always came over in the evening because we were at my grandma's, so my mom came in from work. So he came in to help us do our homework. I used to hate seeing them and hearing them coming. I used to, oh Lord, no. So by the time I got like 10 years old and I had to do my stuff all by myself, I was so thankful because my dad wasn't gonna come and that make me do something because he would have had me doing 6th grade, 7th grade work if he had had his way. So it taught me to be independent. It taught me to study. And I learned to appreciate my father's help. I mean, I appreciate it later, but it drove me bananas. It drove me bonkers, but it sets you up to a different type of learning. You set yourself to a higher standard. I was in California working for USDA, and we were talking about a magnitude of different things. And one of the women, I was only Black there. She was very complimentary. We were friends now even, but all of them were really kind of complimentary. They kept saying, you know what, you're so smart. I started to get an attitude. Because at first I kept saying, like, you saying I'm smart because I'm Black, what you mean? You try to say Black people ain't got no brains, what is it?
Okay.
So somebody kept saying, Sandra, calm down, it's California. They think differently, they speak their mind, they're transparent. Okay. And I said, Judy, why do you say that? She said, you're just really so smart. She said, you know, I never even met anybody. We could have a whole conversation that know different things. I mean, she said, how did you learn all this stuff? And I stopped and I was very honest. I said, you know what? I should be smart. My parents and grandparents invested a lot in me. Somebody been teaching me something. And at that time, I just finished getting my master's. I just finished my master's when I went out there. My second master's. And awesome. I said, I should be. I said, but you know what? Thank you. I said, I don't think of myself as being smart, but I try to wake up every day and learn something. So I deliberately try to learn something every day. If it's a new word, if it's a new expression, I'm constantly critiquing myself, and I try to do better, and I try to be a contributor to this world every day.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You know what, Dad? I ain't heard nothing from Dad.
He's been really quiet. I've been trying to get her. There she is.
When y'all talking.
Come on, Dad.
It's so interesting what y'all doing.
No, we want to hear from you, Miss Estrin herself.
Okay, I love y'all, and Jesus loves us more. Okay, I got to tell you that first. All right, I'm enjoying the conversation. It's so great.
Hey.
All right. Okay.
Nice? Bam, please tell my grandson a little about yourself. I mean, this is the great thing about education too, is feel part of it, especially your contribution to the elevator.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, tell them about the elevator coming.
Come on now. Come
on
now.
I gotta tell you that I love you again. And I have to sing my little song so that maybe you'll get up and you'll sing the song or you'll think about it. Every day, I'm a missionary for the Lord.
All right.
I believe in love, and then as we have more love that we can spread, we'll have less crime going on, and more people doing the positive things we're talking about. Because I want to tell you that I love you, God's love. I want to tell you that I'm thinking of you 24/7, every minute, every hour, every second of the day. Thank you, God. I want to tell you that I love you, God's love. I want to tell you that I'm thinking of you 24/7, every minute, every hour, every second of the day. So when you get up in the morning, tell God you love him. Then look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself.
I love you
and
too.
Everybody in the house, tell them you love them. God loves them and nothing they can do about it in the morning and the evening. And say a prayer if you have an opportunity as a family, or say it over the phone. I just say that because I run into so many people that I tell that I love them. And most of them are saying, I haven't heard nobody tell me that in a long time. People will tell me that on the L I get on, I say that to the whole thing. Sometimes people will come from the back to the front. Thank you. I needed to hear that. So I want the healing. We have to remember that we can be promoters of love. That word itself gets people to start thinking about, what am I doing?
Yes.
Okay, so now let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a national gold medalist archer. I shoot the bow and arrow now. Okay, I haven't always shot the bow and arrow. But I grew up on the South Side, a lot of different schools and stuff, and I can remember that I used to always want to know what was going on with my mom and dad, and especially when they sat at the table to do the bills, and they would try to run me away. And I want to know what's going on. I learned how to clean the house early, starting at 4 and 5. I went in the kitchen, learned how to cook, basic stuff, so I was cooking and cleaning. I was trying to be just like my mom. She was a special ed teacher. But she also left to go down to with Dr. Martin Luther King when he was doing all that stuff down there. And my dad supported that. And his mom was saying, she going down there running after another man. How are you going to support something like that? But he was a good man. He was a good man. He was a postal worker and a barber, in his time. He was in the Air Force. And he tried to get me to go in the Air Force. And I wanted to follow after him, but I said, Daddy, that's 4 years. And if they tell me a fib and for 4 years, I got to do that. I'd rather have them tell me a fib for 3 years. They're going to do it. And that's what they did. They told me a fib because I went in the army. Okay, fast forward. I regress just a little bit. In high school, both my mother got hit by a truck.
Oh,
she got put in the hospital. My father got put in the hospital. And so here we were. I was in school. All of us was in school. And somebody had to pay the bills. But because I had been at the table, I knew where the bills were. And I saw what they did. And I heard sometimes when they called and said, we can't make a payment right now. Can we spread it out? Okay. I heard all that stuff, but I knew I had to get a job. So, but I couldn't let school know I was getting a job because it wasn't allowed. Okay, not the kind of job I was going to get. I was getting a full-time job like everybody else. The big people. Okay, we had a house that had to be paid for. And so I went and I applied for this job, and it was a late job, and I won't tell you where it was, but I will say this, is that God was good to me. And when I started getting people, I had to get rides because I worked from like 4 to 11. And sometimes they have us working till 1 o'clock, and sometimes they have us working overtime till 3. So I had to depend on people to take me back. And you know, some of these guys, they don't want to take you back. They want to take you, but they don't want to take you back home. Okay? So after a couple of episodes of that, I knew I had to buy me a car.
Hello.
I went down the street. I had already taken classes, those driving classes and stuff, but I didn't really have a license yet. But I had my, what do you call it? Some kind of certificate or?
Yeah, you had your what do they call it? A
driver's permit.
Driver's permit, yes.
Yeah, I had my driver's permit. And I went down to a lady down on my block, and I told her, I know she had an extra car because her husband died.
All right.
I said, well, can I buy that car from you? She said, buy it for me. You got any money? I said, yeah, I can pay you $50 a month. She said, $50 a month. It was a red Cadillac with wingtips. Still look good. She had her own car, see? And I knew it was a much smaller car. She said, well, I was gonna sell that car. I said, well, then sell it to me. She said, can you come up with $200? I said, you give me a couple of weeks. She said, no, I'm gonna spread it out then. You give me $75 now, and then you give me $50 every time you get paid, okay? I said, I can do that. She said, so what are you gonna do with insurance? I said, how much is that? I said, I don't have enough for that. And and do this too and pay the bills. She said, okay, I'll take care of your insurance. So she did. She asked me all the questions and stuff. And she said, you can't be telling them you in school right now because you ain't gonna be able to keep this car. Bottom line is that I went and I paid the bills, and I stopped having to go with those guys. And it was just really a blessing. I didn't go to my prom, my junior prom. I almost didn't go to the senior prom because, I had to work so much. Right. I was working, but we were eating and nobody was bothering us. They had to clean, I mow the grass and stuff. We made it through. But that's because I had watched what was going on, and I had seen, and I had enough responsibility. I did what I needed to do with God's help. Okay, I'm gonna say with God. I was praying. So now let's fast forward it when I was in high school. Still, this is how it happened when I was in high school, but I sent out to colleges to go to school. So one school I wanted to go to was San Diego, a school down in California. I can't think of the name of it. What was San Diego? Stanford. And listen to this, the year I was going, or the year and a half I was working, I had my best grades because I knew I couldn't take my books home and do no work. I had to go to work. So at school, when I had my, they had like the class where you can study class.
Right. Yeah.
I did my homework, and I left my books in my locker, and I got all A's.
Whoa,
okay, because I had work on a mission.
I know it.
Help,
I know it.
And then I had a teacher, African-American teacher that taught African-American history. And I asked him for, one of those letters of reference. I had to get 3 of them. The third one I got from him, I just knew I was going to Stanford, and I was telling everybody I was going to Stanford because they sent me a letter that said, this is the provisional, but it looks like we're going to accept you with all my expenses paid.
All right.
I was excited. And then guess what? I got a letter saying they weren't going to accept me. I said, what you mean you're not going to accept me? Why you send me this letter that said you're going to accept me? And it took, I had to keep prodding those people to get them. They said, well, you had a teacher that said that you shouldn't be going there. You should be going to a Black college.
What?
I said, well, who was that? They said, you're African-American history teacher. He said, you get lost in that school, that big old school. And I'm like, I got an A from him. Why isn't an A? An A is an A.
Okay.
And he said, you will not do well in a school like that. You need to know who you are first. You need to go to one of these Black colleges. So he sent me to this place called Silas Purnell. You ever heard of him?
Silas Purnell.
Silas Purnell.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got Wednesday, my
Your
mother and
voice
I, we went
breaking up.
down to that
Breaking
Silas
up.
Purnell. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but
I'm gonna hurry up. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, so Silas Purnell. So when I went there, I just told him to give me the furthest school I could get from Chicago because I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to see nobody to tell them now I'm not going to Stanford. I'm going to a Black college. You know, what did I know about Black colleges? Nothing. I'm like, I thought all colleges were the same. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get a chance to go like we're pushing them to them different colleges to see what's going on, you know? So anyway, that was on a Friday. He told us only thing my mother had to pay for or my father was just the airfare to get me down there and get me back. He was getting scholarships and student aid. So it was student aid too. It wasn't just all scholarship. So on that Sunday, I was down there, okay? Now I want to tell you my experience down there was really an eye-opener and I feel was important. I'm not gonna jive. I mean, I'm glad I went there because I did learn some things about pride that I couldn't have learned at another school that was primarily white. And I might not have had the support. So I did enjoy that. I thought I was going down to do dance and theater and they put me on the radio first weekend. And I said, I'm down here to major in dance and theater. And afterwards, this guy said, excuse me, we don't have dance and theater here. And I was like, I'm stupid. I was just on the radio. But that's okay. I helped start a dance company. We went to different Black colleges around dancing. I got on the cheerleading team and, you know, took some gymnastics. And that was the time that Gwendolyn Brooks came down to the school because we were not allowed, at our school, we were not allowed to wear pants, even on our own time. So we had to fight for that. After she left, well, we were able to do some, but when I came, I did it all the time. And pretty soon everybody else started doing it. Not just classes though, but except for when I had to go to gymnastics, I was like, I'm too sweaty to put on a skirt when I come back out of here. So I'm not putting it on. Okay, now fast forward, I'm in high school. Right before I'm in high school, I leave high school for Stanford. I also sent a letter to University of Paris. And the thing came back in French. I'm like, I don't speak this stuff. So I threw it away. I did. I threw it away. It was romantic to hear the word Paris. You know, people were talking about that. So at the end of the year, though, I saw on the bulletin board this little notice saying, do you want to do a work or a study and travel abroad? I said, I was kind of trying to do that before. They had University of Paris. I'm going to send out for this. But I made the mistake of putting home address on it, okay? And so it came to my house. The dry house. And guess what? My parents had me going before I said I was going to go because I had to sell my car. Okay. As a freshman, you cannot have a freshman at the school. Okay. So that summer I was working at what's that? It's not IBM, but it's some place downtown, CNA building or something. I was doing computers. I was like, they love me down there. You know, everywhere I went, they love me. She can come back anytime, you know. And I said, this time I got to get another car. So you got to give me more hours. They said, no problem. But my parents said that I wasn't going to get no car. I was going to Paris for the summer. So I did. I went to Paris for the summer. And I'm going to tell you, that was one of the best experiences I had. I didn't come back. When I told my parents I wasn't coming back, they didn't believe me. they were going to the airport to pick me up. I said, I'm not coming back. I met Black people that could speak French that couldn't speak English. And I'm like, I thought everybody spoke English. I don't care whatever other thing you spoke. English is the language of the world. What's this?
That was awesome.
So I stayed and I ended up going to school full time. I went to the University of Paris as a regular student. Guess how much I paid for the year? $100 tuition.
Get out of here.
For the whole year. I was at the International Law and International Economics faculty.
Whoa.
And they got me a place in the a place for women students. They were basically African students and a couple from the islands, you know, and me. I was the only American in there. And I have three other ladies in my room. One was from Nigeria, one was from Cameroon, and one was from Jamaica. She was the only Jamaican in there too. And so her being Jamaican and me being American, we were the only non-Africans in there. And their fathers were like finance chairmen, you know, they were big, you know, ambassadors, all that kind of stuff. But little on me, I got in there, they put me in there and was $400 a month. And so my parents did pay the $400 a month, you know. And so I thought it was invaluable. I started learning French as much as I could. I picked up all the stuff on the street. I learned all the swear words. No, you know, I wasn't trying to learn them. But anyway, bottom line, one of my professors who also wrote the book over the Harvard and Yale and they were using, found out that I couldn't speak really French. And he came on, he cursed me out. I mean, really, I know how to swear, you know, you learn that. You learn that one of the first things you learn. And, but he said, but I had guts. So he gave me a tutor to help me. And I was still going to Alliance Française in the evening and going to school in the daytime. And I learned French. So, je parle français en ce moment, comme je parle anglais. And I finished my classes, all of them in French. I got my certificate. So that's my experience. And I think that you need to go.
What I'm talking about.
And guess what? I thought I was something. Most of those students were high school students. Really? They had been there once or twice. And I'm like, we don't never go to stuff like this. We've never been even told about this kind of stuff, you know? So I would definitely support kids going abroad, you know. If they're in high school, I wouldn't necessarily suggest it if they're in grammar school unless they have a family member or something that's there. But and then they have to have some morals about themselves to keep themselves together, because you know the same things that are over here are over there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, that's enough for me. I love you. I love you. Nothing you can do about it. Unless you have any questions, I'm gonna yield to the floor.
All right. All right. Well, we got Miss Madeline Sanders on. She's a veteran too. Madeline.
All right, Madeline. All right. Well, I'm gonna
tell
go
us
on
a
you.
little bit
Okay.
about you and education. Your education. Madeline, you muted. Madeline, you muted. There you go.
Okay, here I am.
All
Okay.
right.
So very quickly, yeah, I was born and grew up in Chicago, and I went to a number of different elementary schools because we moved around a lot, and I went to Marshall for 2 years, and then Crane High School. Well, at that time it was called Crane Tech. Crane Tech High School, when I went there, was academically, it was like the Lane Tech of the West Side. Okay. That school had everything. In fact, when I was transferred there, I was in a gifted program. I was also in the orchestra. They had a full orchestra and a full band. I played cello in the orchestra. And I went there for a year and a semester because I went to summer school so I could finish early, and I did. And then after I graduated in January '62, and when I left home, I met a couple of other girls who wanted to leave home. We all wanted to leave home at the same time. Everybody was trying to get away from their parents, and we did. And so we got an apartment on the South Side, And two of us have actually, well, one had investigated joining the military. And the long and short of that was I ended up, she went to the Naval Recruiting Office. She went there first and talked to a recruiter. And of course, he convinced her that the military is the best thing since sliced apple pie. Free dental, free medical. And they had these little brochures to make boot camp look like you were going to a college campus, which I found out was not true.
Mm.
And so anyway, but we both joined, and we joined under the so-called buddy-buddy system, which we also found out did not exist unless you are biological brothers or sisters. But anyway, the boot camp was 10 weeks, and boy, that was in Bainbridge, Maryland, which is like 40 miles outside of Baltimore. And I can tell you, that was one of the most trying experiences that I ever had. When I joined the Navy, I did not know how to swim because I had actually, when I was a kid, I ended up going to the funeral of a young man who drowned in Lake Michigan. And I can tell you that scared the hell out of me. So anyway, when I was in boot camp, I found out you either learn how to swim
That's right.
or you get discharged out of the Navy.
Oh,
so I thought,
I didn't
that's
know
right.
that.
So I said to myself, I am not going to get discharged out of the Navy and disgrace myself and my family. So I thought, and to qualify in swimming, you had to go to the deep end of the pool, which was like 14 feet.
Uh-oh.
I
Go up
love
on what we called a pink ladder, jump off in that pool. And before now, I had to learn the rudiments of swimming. So I had to at least be a third-class swimmer. Anyway, the day when I decided to qualify, I just went up on the ladder. Initially, the first time I went on the ladder, I just stood there. And of course, the longer you look at the water, the more ominous it looks. And the instructor screamed at me to come get down and let somebody else qualify. Next day, I said, I'm going up on this ladder. I don't care what happens. If I drown, I drown. And so I went up on the ladder the next day, and I didn't even look down at the water. I closed my eyes and just jumped in that pool. And of course, our bodies are 70% water. So, we surface immediately unless we're fighting. People drown in the water because they fight. And if you allow your body to relax, you will automatically surface. And so I did. And I swam across the pool and qualified. And boy, I was so happy with myself because I had learned how to do the rudiments of swimming. And they also, in basic training, they taught you how to take a pair of pants and inflate them with air so that you can use them as a life jacket of sorts if you ever in a boat and the boat capsizes. And that was an interesting experience. And then when I got out of boot camp, I asked for orders to California and New York. I got orders to California, Northern California. I was in Alameda, which is right on the same side where Berkeley, Oakland, and a bunch of cities are located. And I tell people to this day, because sometimes I hear women talk about all the trauma they had in the military, and it was this going on, that going on, sexual assault and all that stuff. And I'm saying, so what happened? I said, because I had a ball when I was in the Navy. And in fact, I worked in an office, it was a security office, and I was the only female wave there, female military person there. And I got a chance to work with the investigators, and we covered all the crime that happened on that base. It was a large naval air station. So that was a very interesting experience. And it got me interested in the area of law enforcement. And so, we would, anybody who committed any crime, they had to come through our office. And I would actually do the initial interviews and write up reports to prepare them for court martial, because if you got in trouble in the military, depending on the charge against you, you could end up with a court martial. And so anyway, the experience in the military, you have to have a certain personality to survive in the military. And when I joined, I know you had to join in the Navy for 3 years. I joined for 3 years, and when I was asked about re-upping, And I said, no, thank you. I'm going to college and goodbye. And that's exactly what I did. When I got out of the service, I lived in Berkeley, and I started going to Oakland City College initially. Ironically, I was out there during the time when the Black Panther organization got started. And two of the people who were hanging out at that college in the cafeteria, because during those years, a lot of students would be in the cafeteria all day hanging out, talking about how we were going to solve the world's problems. And I met Bobby Seale and Huey Newton. They were founders of the Black Panther organization in Northern California. And the organization really did a lot of great work, although, it was J. Edgar Hoover and that whole crew of gangbusters, as I call them, who were trying to destroy the reputation of the Black Panthers. And really, I tell people what destroyed the organization was that they didn't have a proper way of validating who joined the organization. Anybody could join. And ultimately, that was their undoing, because people joined that organization who were informants. And that, resulted in the destruction. It caused a lot of chaos in the organization. Of course, and a lot of those guys in the organization, I tell people, were very, very smart. Huey Newton, in fact, he actually got a PhD in anthropology from the University of California.
Wow.
And unfortunately, he got caught up in drugs, and he got killed. I was back in Chicago. I know when that happened. Bobby Seale, he actually went out and he became a speaker. And at one time he was doing instructional work. Huey had asked me about joining the Black Panther organization. I told him I was interested. I was going to think about it. And then about 3 weeks after we had that conversation was when the Black Panthers, if you all remember this photo, it went worldwide. They showed up in Sacramento with the berets on and the guns in their hand, talking about they were standing for their rights to bear arms, which of course is in the Constitution. We do have that right. But of course, when you see a bunch of Black men showing up someplace talking about bearing arms, you can imagine how that went over. Okay. And they were in the halls of the legislature there in Sacramento. And Ronald Reagan, who was the president at that time, he got a law passed in California that said, oh no, you won't be talking about bearing arms in this state. And he put the clamps on that. And the NRA didn't even support the Black Panther. They did not support their stance. And see, that's one of the phoniness that I say about the NRA, National Rifle Association. So when I got out, when I was out of the service, I did a lot of really good things. Ultimately, I did finally start school. When I really got serious about my schoolwork, it was like I had moved back to Chicago. I started at Lou College, which is now called Harold Washington. And I went there for a year and a semester. I did 2 years in like a year and a half. It took a lot of hours. I got really great grades. And then I applied to go to, I applied to 3 schools. In fact, I went and talked to Silas Parnell too. And he was suggesting to me that I should not, because one of the schools that I was considering was Northwestern. And he said, oh no, you shouldn't go there. Because he saw, I had really high test scores in verbal. I always did really well in verbal work, but my math skills were poor because I lacked the self-confidence. And when you lack self-confidence, and then that could be a major stumbling block. I ultimately learned mathematics, and I'm really good in it now because I got over the fear of it, and I came to understand what mathematics is about. But I went to Northwestern. I got accepted there, and I went. And I had a wonderful time. And even though it's a predominantly Caucasian, a majority school, they had a house there, and it still exists. In fact, it's called the Black House. And it was called the Black House, and all the Black students hung out there. Undergraduate and graduate students hung out at the Black House. And
Well-
it was that place was very supportive for students on the campus. And in fact, I had one instructor who was a African professor. He was originally from Kenya, and he became my mentor for the 2 years I was at Northwestern. And I was so glad when he became my mentor because he really supported me. And the first year I was there, boy, when I first went there, I had so many. I carried because they're on the quarter system. I carried a full load every quarter. And I mean, you work your butt off. When you go to a school of that caliber, you can say you really graduated when you finish.
Yeah.
And and it was an experience. I'm telling you, I've said many times, if all of my schooling had been like equivalent to what I had at Northwestern, I would have been a monster. I mean, intellectually, but I managed to overcome, because when you grow up in certain areas, you all know this. If you grow up in certain zip codes, you may or may not get a decent education.
That's true.
Especially in these areas. And even when there are African-American teachers, it really depends on, the motivation, not only of your teachers, but also the kind of curriculum that exists. And because I have, 1 year, I did subbing a few years ago for like 4 3/4 years. And I can tell you all, even it was in the charter schools. Charter schools, a lot of them are no better than some of these public schools because they had bare bones curriculum. And when I say bare bones, you got a science program. Let's say you offer biology or chemistry, and you have no labs. I mean, what is that all about?
Hey.
You might offer. Some schools offer one foreign language, maybe Spanish. Okay. A lot of these charter schools have no library. What is that all about? A school with no library? I mean, you know, that should never happen. Everybody should know how to use the doggone library, because you got to know how to do research. And
we're gonna have to close this. We got to close this.
Okay.
Over. But I wanted to end with letting Lavette tell us about her cultural program, because everybody needs to know what's going on culturally. And I wanted her to start coming on the Woman to Woman show and sharing with us what she's going to be sharing in the publication about culture. Lavette, can you close us out with your culture report?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to say that, you know, I'm the cultural journalist for Chicago Communicator News Media. And it has been a joy to tag along with some of the things that we've covered, such as the A Few Good Women with Karen Hicks, and Do For Self with Dennis Mohammed. And also we covered a wedding. And sometimes, you know, those are joyous moments. And we hear all too often about things that are tragic and harmful to people, but people do get married. And I'd like to say, you know, the majority of this group right here are at least, you know, past 40, past 50, past 60, some past 70. But listen, the wedding that we went to, when you see the bridesmaids coming down the aisle, I had to take a second look, right? Because I was like, wait a minute, she looked like she's past 60. Wait a minute, she looked like she's about 70. And so it was the sweetest thing, right? And so we were also at the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday. You all will get a chance to see some of that footage. And that was a production about Nancy Green, who is Aunt Jemima. And that is a real person that has a story. And we did it as a musical production. And Chuck and Luck and the Bronzeville musical family, they all came and performed. And some of you know Oscar Brown Jr.,
Mhm.
his daughter, Maggie
Mhm.
Brown. She
Mhm.
was the featured artist along with Patisse Lewis and Prince Amiel, who you'll get to know. He was also on the drums, on the bongos, and he
Prince
has a
Asiel?
Prince Amiel, and
Okay.
not
Amiel.
Prince Asiel, but Prince Amiel. And
Amia,
Prince
okay.
Amiel has a 14-acre farm that we've been visiting in Linwood, Illinois, and he is producing watermelons and organic vegetables, organic popcorn. And so these are the kinds of things that we need to take advantage of, especially agriculture. And so every third Saturday, we're going to do Kaumba Saturdays, Kaumba meaning creativity, and agricultural Saturdays, where we bring in fresh produce from the farms, and we have other local gardeners. I'm a part of the 5,000 Garden Network. The Garden Network is much larger than that, but our garden is 5,000 square foot. And so these are the kinds of things that we want to share, and we want to encourage our community to start being urban agriculturalists. You know, find a plot of land that you can grow your food, get a pot and grow some basil. And because I found out that Bill Gates owns 300 million acres of land. And to have someone control your land where you don't have the opportunity to see where your seeds are coming from, or where, if there are pesticides on the food. So these are the kinds of things that we'll be covering through the news reports of Chicago Communicator News. And thank you, Wanda, for the time to share
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
And then we will share that on the site,
Yes.
because there are dates that we're going to be given, and we're going to actually do the Nancy Green Aunt Jemima production again. We're working on that right now and looking for a venue where you can all come out and have a good time with us, and do something adult and spacious, and so. And I know you look forward to coming out and just having a good time.
Yes. All right. Well, thank everybody for joining us tonight. TJ, you did an excellent job as usual introducing the show, and your grandmother did an excellent job as usual telling us all about all the things we need to know about education. Thank you, Babette. Thank you, Madeline. And thank you, Miss Yo. Livette. Everybody have a great night.
I just
thank you.
Wanda?
Yes.
Wanda? I know you just gave us a good fanfare farewell, but I did want to mention that my article is under Livette's IMO, and that's Livette's In My Opinion. And I thank Wanda again for having this opportunity.
All right. Thank you.
Amen. Good
Love
night.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody have a great
Good
one.
night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.